In Resident Evil, Chris Redfield, Jill Valentine, Barry Burton and Rebecca Chambers helped in defeating double-crossing Albert Wesker and blew up the horrific mansion that housed the T-Virus and many undead monsters. However, the game was an absolute success with fans and critics alike, being called one of the greatest and most thrilling games of its era. So it caused the virus to be unleashed once more in a sequel. Welcome to PlayStation Legacy, and this is Resident Evil 2. Originally, Resident Evil 2 looked a lot different to its ending product. However, even at 90% completion, this version was scrapped due to a lack of quality and would be dubbed Resident Evil 1.5. The team at Capcom started back from scratch and in 1998 released the true Resident Evil 2, which changed director from Shinji Mikami, who directed the first game, to Hideki Kamiya, who you would later recognise he directed the first Devil May Cry. Kamiya set out to replicate everything that the first game did, but make it bigger. Let's have more zombies, let's set it in a big city, let's have the two protagonists meet and interact more often than the original one so that their stories are intertwined, let's have more mutated enemies to battle. All while still keeping the previous game's roots in place. With all this, Resident Evil 2 became a must-own for the PS1 and took Capcom as a name all the way to the top, if Street Fighter 2 didn't already. Resident Evil 2 takes place 2 months after the first game. Your playable characters this time around are Leon Kennedy, a new rookie cop. He's headed to the town of Raccoon City for his first day on the job. Then you have Claire Redfield, the sister to Chris from the last game. She's here to look for her brother who has gone missing. When they each arrive, they bump into each other amid a zombie outbreak. It seems the virus has managed to infect the town from the nearby mansion incident. They soon get separated but decide to meet up at a local police station. From here is the short but sweet Raccoon City portion of RE2. It's a linear segment through winding streets and offers a very cinematic opening to the game. Now yes, Resident Evil 2 has you again in a large mansion-esque building filled with zombies, and you have to go through the building finding keys, exploring the sewers, solving puzzles and eventually escaping another underground laboratory. But the new setting in Raccoon City seems like a natural progression for the series. You feel a lot more threatened in a city than a desolate mansion in the hills. Danger is around every corner and the horror here is a lot larger than in the original, especially with the game's new grotesque licker enemies. Blinded by their mutations, you'll have to move around them silently, avoiding broken glass on the floor if you want to avoid them. Leon Kennedy and Claire Redfield are a little more fleshed out here than Jill and Chris were in the previous game. A courageous sibling, Claire gets time to interact with young character Sherry Birkin, acting as a relatable older sister, and the optimistic rookie Leon Kennedy has multiple run-ins with love interest Ada Wong. These side characters add a few extra dimensions to our protagonists and make them all the more memorable. Leon Kennedy and Claire Redfield would become pivotal characters to the overall franchise. But not only does the main cast get a lot better dialogue and character design, but so do the smaller cast. Every single character here feels like the American populace struggling to survive a zombie outbreak. It's not over the top, it's not out of focus, it's perfectly balanced between realism and melodrama, making it one of the greatest Resident Evil campaigns to date. Leon and Claire's campaigns intertwine with one another this time around, taking some items in one run through won't be there on the other, offering a little bit of strategy. After you've beat a character's story, you'll unlock the other character's B scenario, in which you'll start on the other side of the gas tanker from the beginning, and you'll want to beat the other character's B scenario to unlock the game's canon ending. That means Resident Evil 2 offers up 4 times to replay the game in order to fully complete it, and you'll want to do it just to how good that this game is. On your second playthrough, you'll be chased down by a brand new foe codenamed Mr. X. He's a huge, intimidating tyrant who can crash through walls just to get to you, and makes your second run through all the more exciting and interesting, and his character design would later be built upon in the next game in Resident Evil 3. Like its predecessor, Resident Evil 2 retains the tank controls, meaning slow movement and harsh control until you get a hang of it. Even then, battling against agile foes is still a pain in the ass, but I mean, it works. It works for the time. Each character's side to the game is a lot more balanced though this time around, whereas in the last game, Chris has the burden of picking up small key items, having less inventory slots than Jill, and not even getting the grenade launcher. This time around, Leon and Claire both have 8 inventory slots, a lot to manage with there, and I felt no major difference in the amount of health they have. It's a lot more balanced and good to play through both. Resident Evil 2 also upped the ante on the graphics, having higher polygon counts for its character models, expressing larger detail, and also having smoother colour gradients than the previous game. The stunning pre-rendered backgrounds make a return, and so does the kick-ass soundtrack, filled with more gloomy and glorious tracks that fit every mood, whether it's the memorable first entry of the police station, or the first time Mr. X bursts into the scene. After beating your first campaign, then the second character's B scenario, Leon, Claire and Sherry ride out of Raccoon City aboard a train, having beat Mr. X, and finish off a mutated William Birkin. Claire sets off to look for her brother, and Leon becomes a government agent. After the campaign, there is a side game to unlock called The Fourth Survivor, in which you play as an Umbrella agent called Hunk, who's been tasked with retrieving a new G-Virus sample. This game is incredibly challenging and features no items, so you have to use the health and ammo that's in your preset inventory to manage. There is also an extra alternate version of this mode that you can unlock, in which you play as a slice of tofu. Regardless, these are very welcoming for RE2 as even more extra content, but you do have to jump through hoops to flipping unlock them. It's no denying Resident Evil 2 is one of the greatest games for the original PlayStation and was a huge step up from the first game. Its characters were charming, memorable and full of personality. The game's setting was vast, and with the inclusion of 2 major villains, William Birkin and Mr. X, the stakes were larger than ever before. Resident Evil 2 was a major success for Capcom, outselling even Final Fantasy VII. It was, and always will be, the perfect sequel. Resident Evil 2 gets a final score from me of an S for stylish.
Come on, time to leave.
Now? What's wrong? Is something following us?
We have to go. We don't have any time to waste.
Go? Where?
Hey, it's up to us to take out Umbrella.